Today marks the release of one of my favorite bosses from RuneScape 3, Araxxor. I spent the last few days stacking Slayer points since we can only fight Araxxor on a Slayer task. With the introduction of the new boss, we're going to see some of the best money in the game. The Araxxor boots will be best in slot for low-level defense builds, the Rancor amulet will be a straight upgrade to the Amulet of Torture, and the Noxious Halberd will be a niche item used to bridge melee gaps. It could see some decent use cases within Tob or Coliseum. If you intend on farming this boss specifically, you'll need a Slayer level of 92. I'd recommend Turiel point boosting with Konar used on your 10th tasks. Let's get into it. To start out, I'm making my way to Araxxor via Sleep and the Spider Teleports. I think that those are both really good options to get there. You can also use Hollowed Sepulchre teleports as well as Fairy Rings. When you get inside the cave, you're going to run immediately to the west. Make sure you protect from melee, have some anti-venoms on you. Personally, so far I really enjoy the boss. I could see it getting boring in the long run, but I think as it stands currently, it's really fun. And that's coming from someone in completely max gear, so the boss doesn't end up being that challenging. I think that it has interactive mechanics that Jagex really nailed as far as it being definitely Araxxor, but also definitely old school. It's not anywhere near the difficulty or mechanical intensity of Araxxor from RS3 on release, but it's still fun. It's definitely a Slayer boss. I think that one of the big things that they kind of missed on was the severity of misplaying the mirrorbacks. I think that mirrorbacks in RS3 were a really cool mechanic that caused you to really pay attention when you play the fight. In this fight, though, mirrorbacks are kind of inconsequential. It doesn't really matter if you ignore them or not. You will routinely see me throughout these kills just absolutely ignoring them. I originally was bringing in a Ballista and one-shotting them. It's unnecessary. All it did was make me miss a Scythe hit. I thought that a large portion of this was due to me wearing a Blood Fury. I swapped off the Blood Fury and I could still ignore them safely without really worrying about my food in the long run. I think that, in spite of that, I think that the Red Crab has really fun mechanics. I think that spacing yourself away from the Red Crab to not lose attack ticks, and then walking under the boss and exploding the crab under him is really fun. That's good gameplay design. I think that has skill expression, and it's something intuitive that you can figure out in your first couple kills. I think that that's really great design, and something that was innovative, yet also old school. We saw this mechanic brought out in like Baba's Monkey Room. I think that exploding minor NPCs on larger bosses is something that is fun. It's also very similar to Top Crabs. Now, the special attack that we just saw, the little forward poison trail that kind of just sits on the ground, I think that's another miss. I think that's really boring and not much is going on there. I think the only thing that I'm hoping the reason that exists is that with the Noxious Halberd we can do some type of venom stacking mechanic where we can get a big guaranteed special attack off. If that's not the case and we can't do something fun with that, which again, it could be hard to do so because the way venom stacking works, I don't really see it doing that. It's just kind of boring. There's not much going on. That special attack comes out only when the green crab spawns first. So if the red crab spawns first, we instead get a much more interactive special attack, which is it shoots you with a poison trail similar to Olm. Amazing. I think that's fun. I think that spacing yourself out has skill expression, making sure that you end up attacking and not losing ticks. Great. It only lasts 6 ticks though, so you only really have to walk under Araxxor and force yourself out once to not lose ticks. Otherwise, you could just tank 5 or 10 damage and completely ignore it, which I end up doing because I'm lazy and there's no real punishment for doing so because it's so short. Again, it's a Slayer boss, but 92 Slayer is pretty high level. there's no real reason that we shouldn't have some level of difficulty attached to these. You have Araxxites in the other lair. If you get assigned Araxxites, you don't have to kill Araxxor. We could also make this boss difficult. It's fine. We did what we did, and that's fine. I'm still enjoying the boss regardless, but I just think that purposefully making Slayer bosses weak and not very strong is a bit of an odd choice in the long run. I think that some Slayer bosses deserve to have strong mechanics that actually punish players, especially if they're used as stepping stones. I think that Grotesque Guardians especially have some great PvM mechanics with medium risk, but unfortunately that reward factor isn't there compared to the risk, and then it just missed a little bit. Like, Slayer could be better. I think that Grotesque Guardians especially were like one of those stepping stone bosses where it's like you learn a decent bit about PvM, and if it gave people more of a reward as far as GP value or unique value, people might do it more. Unfortunately, the only people that really do Grotesque Guardians are people getting the combat achievements out of the way, and then people that are hunting for the pet, which, granted, it's a really sick pet. Now, one more thing I'm gonna explain is the mechanics with the green crab, the enrage phase, and your ability to dodge damage at the end of the wave. So, at the end of the kill, when Araxxor is under 25% HP, she'll enter an enrage phase, where she stops actually meleeing you. Even though she's doing her melee animation, she's actually not meleeing you at all. The tile you are centered on, and the two adjacent tiles. If you are on any of those three tiles when her attack comes out, you'll be hit. So, you can turn off Protect from Melee and not actually get hit as long as you're not in any of those three tiles. So, you can protect from range during the enrage phase and dodge all the damage, because let's be honest, nobody's killing the ranger during the Araxxor fight, nobody's probably killing the mirror back or the exploding Araxxite either. There's really not much reason to kill anything except the boss. Now, to prove my point a bit about how there's not really much reason to kill anything inside Araxxor except the boss itself, I did a kill with no super combats, with swordfish and prayer pots as my main food source and prayer source. I used thralls just as a cause of DPS concerns, a dragon mace, and a Tazar Ket Alm with basically no gear whatsoever, not using a Slayer helm, anything. The kill took 8 minutes. This was the most extreme example I could come up with, shy of brewing my stats down before walking in. Even if you had stats as low as the 80s, you could kill this boss, provided you acknowledge some of the mechanics. Just wanted to leave this in as an example kill. Sped up, that way you don't have to watch a whole 20-minute video. As it gets towards the end, I'll slow it down a bit. But you can go in and kill Araxxor with basically no gear. So don't worry about going in and trying it. Just have fun.